"Sir, he played with me yesterday," said the boy to the millionaire. "The truth is spine-chilling." Richard Thompson knelt before the white marble tomb, tears streaming uncontrollably down his face. 3 months had passed since he lost his only son, and the pain seemed only to grow with each cemetery visit. It was then that a child's trembling voice cut through the afternoon silence. Raising his tear-filled eyes, he saw a boy no older than 12, wearing a faded red hoodie. "Sir, he played with me yesterday," the boy said, pointing at the tomb with his small, shaky hand. Richard froze. This couldn't be happening. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, thinking he was having hallucinations from grief. "What did you say?" he asked hoarsely. "Your son, Peter. He played with me yesterday afternoon at the playground near my house," the boy repeated, his large eyes fixed on the businessman. Richard's heart stopped for a moment. How did this child know his son's name? And how could he claim something so impossible? "Son, you must be confused. My son—" Richard couldn't finish the sentence. "I know you don't believe me, but I brought proof," said the boy, pulling an old cell phone with a cracked screen from his hoodie pocket. Richard's hands trembled as he saw the screen light up. It was a video, and in the video, impossible as it seemed, was Peter. His Peter. Smiling, waving, saying, "Hi, Dad," in that voice he missed so much. Richard nearly fainted right there, holding onto the headstone to keep from falling. The boy kept talking, but the words seemed to come from far away. "My name is Johnny. Peter told me that when the time came I had to come here and show this to you. He recorded several messages." "This is impossible," murmured Richard, still staring at the phone screen. "My son passed away 3 months ago. How can there be new videos?" Johnny wiped a tear that rolled down his face. "That's what I came to explain to you, Peter. He told me a big secret, said that when the right moment came I would understand everything." Richard held the phone with both hands, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. On the screen, Peter kept talking, but he was wearing clothes Richard didn't recognize. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice nearly disappearing. "Peter hid this phone in a little house in my neighborhood, said it was our secret spot. I only found it yesterday, after he told me in a dream where to look." Richard stood up slowly, still holding the device. Other cemetery visitors began looking in their direction, but he didn't care. "Johnny, is that right? Is that your name?" "Yes, sir. Peter talked about you a lot, said you were the best dad in the world and that he was sorry he had to leave." The boy's words hit Richard like a punch to the stomach. Peter really used those expressions. How could this child know? "Did you know my son? Were you friends?" Johnny shook his head, his curls bouncing. "We always played together, but he asked me not to tell anyone, said it was our special secret." Richard looked around. The cemetery was quiet, with a few distant people visiting other graves. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees, creating dancing shadows on the ground. "Johnny, I need to understand this better. Can you explain properly how you met Peter?" The boy nodded, wiping his nose on his hoodie sleeve. "It started about 6 months ago. I was playing alone at the playground near my house when he showed up. Said he was from a rich family and wanted to be my friend." Richard felt his chest tighten. 6 months ago, Peter was still alive, but already very sick. He rarely left home, and when he did, he was always accompanied. "Where is this playground?" "In the Riverdale neighborhood. It's far from here." Peter always showed up in the afternoon, after his school, but he never came by car, always on foot. The Riverdale neighborhood was on the other side of the city. How did Peter get there? Richard never knew of any visits from his son to that area. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Johnny, are you sure it was Peter?" asked Richard, showing a photo on his phone. The boy's eyes lit up. "It's him. Exactly like him. Except when I met him, he was a bit fuller. Later he got thinner, but always very cheerful." Richard swallowed hard. This confirmed the timeline. Peter had lost a lot of weight in the last months of his life. "And what did you play?" "Everything. He made up amazing stories. He said he was a time traveler and came from different times to visit me. Sometimes he was a pirate, sometimes an astronaut. He had a really good imagination. Richard smiled for the first time in months. That was totally Peter's way. Always creative, always inventing characters and stories. And he never mentioned he was sick? Johnny shook his head. Never. But I noticed that sometimes he got tired quickly. I thought it was because he came from far away. He always said he had to go back before they missed him. Richard's heart raced. Did Peter sneak out to meet this boy? How did no one notice? Johnny, who do you live with? With my grandma, Mrs. Grace. My parents left when I was little. Grandma takes care of me alone. And did she know about this friendship with Peter? No. Peter asked me not to tell anyone. He said adults wouldn't understand our special friendship. Richard felt a pang in his chest. Why had Peter hidden this friendship? Was he ashamed to introduce a poor friend to the family? Johnny, do you want to show me more videos? Can I see? The boy carefully handed over the phone. There are many, sir. Peter recorded a lot. He said each one was for a special occasion. Richard handled the device with trembling fingers. There were dozens of videos, some just a few seconds long, others longer. All showed Peter speaking directly to the camera. He clicked on the first one in the list. Peter appeared on the screen, sitting on what looked like a park bench. Hi, Johnny. If you're watching this, it means our first adventure together worked out. I hope you enjoyed playing pirates with me. Keep this phone well hidden, okay? Only you can watch these videos. There are special secrets. Richard paused the video, moved. His son's voice sounded so clear, so alive, as if he were right there talking to them at that moment. Johnny, this phone, are you sure Peter left it for you? Yes, sir. He taught me where it was hidden, in a little box buried under the big tree in the playground. And you only found it yesterday? Johnny hesitated for a moment. Actually, I knew where it was for a while. But Peter told me to only take it when I felt the time was right. Last night I dreamed of him and he told me, now is the time, Johnny. Now is... Go get the phone and look for my father at the cemetery. A shiver ran down Richard's spine. How could a child make up such a detailed and emotionally complex story? Johnny, do you always dream about Peter? Not always, but sometimes. He visits me when I'm very sad or missing him. In the dream he says he's okay and that I shouldn't be sad about him. Richard looked at his son's grave, then at the boy. There was something about Johnny that touched him deeply. A sincere innocence, a genuine connection with Peter that he couldn't explain. Do you want to sit here with me and watch more videos together? Johnny nodded and sat on the grass next to Richard. Together they began to watch the recordings. In the second video, Peter was noticeably thinner but still smiling. Johnny, it was really fun playing astronauts with you today. You're a special friend, you know. Sometimes I think, if I had a brother, I'd want him to be just like you. Brave, fun, and with a big heart. Richard paused again. Peter had always wanted a brother. There were many times he asked his parents for a little brother. Johnny, did Peter ever talk about wanting a brother? Yes, he did. He said that if he could choose a family for me, he'd choose his, that I'd really like his house and you and Mrs. Christine. Richard was shocked. Johnny knew his wife's name. Had Peter talked about the family to the boy? He told you about my wife? He told me a lot. He said Mrs. Christine makes the best brigadeiro in the world, and that you work in a very tall building downtown. It was true. Christine was famous for her sweets, and Richard really worked in one of the tallest buildings in the business district. Johnny, I'd really like to meet your grandmother. Do you think she'd let me come to your house? I think so, sir. But she's a bit wary of rich people. She's afraid they might take advantage. Richard understood. It was a natural reaction, considering the social difference between them. What if I came just as someone who wants to meet a friend of Peter's, without talking about money or work? Johnny smiled for the first time since he'd arrived at the cemetery. She'd like that. Grandma always says what matters is a person's heart, not what they have. They continued watching the videos. In each recording, Peter seemed physically weaker, but his eyes shone when he talked about the adventures with Johnny. In one of the longer videos, Peter was sitting on the same bench, but clearly more debilitated. Johnny, I need to tell you something important. Maybe I won't be able to come play with you for a while. It's not because I don't want to, it's because sometimes people have to travel very far away. But I want you to know that you were the best friend I ever had. And if one day you feel lonely, remember that I'll always be cheering for you." Richard felt the tears flow again. Peter knew he was leaving and was saying goodbye to his friend. "Johnny, did you understand this message when you first saw it?" "I understood he was saying goodbye, but I thought he'd come back after the trip. It was only after my grandma explained to me what happens when people travel very far away that I really understood." The maturity of that child impressed Richard. Despite his young age, Johnny had a deep understanding of loss and farewell. "And how did you feel when you found out the truth?" "I was very sad, but I was also happy to have been his friend. Peter taught me many important things." "What kind of things?" "That it doesn't matter if a person is rich or poor, that true friendship is when you care about the other, and that even when someone goes away, the love stays in our heart." Richard impulsively hugged Johnny. That 12-year-old child had a wisdom that many adults didn't possess. "Johnny, would you mind if I wanted to keep being your friend like Peter was?" The boy's eyes filled with tears. "You'd really do that?" "Yes, I would. I think Peter would want us to take care of each other." They went back to watching the videos. There were over 20 recordings, each showing different aspects of Peter's personality and the special friendship he had developed with Johnny. In one of the last recordings, Peter was clearly very weak, but he made an effort to record a longer message. "Johnny, if you're watching this video, it means our special adventure has come to an end. I can't play with you in person anymore, but I want you to know that you changed my life. In recent months, even though I was sick, I was happy because I had you as a friend. Now I need to ask you something very important. I want you to look for my father. He'll be very sad, and I think you two can help each other. Show him these videos when you feel the time is right, and tell him I chose you to be part of our family. Johnny, you're special. Never forget that." Richard was breathless. Peter had planned everything. He had prepared a way to help both his father and his friend after his departure. "Johnny, do you understand what Peter meant by being part of our family?" The boy lowered his head shyly. "I think he wanted you to be like a father to me. But I know that's very difficult. I'm not from the same class as you." "Johnny, look at me," said Richard, lifting the boy's chin. "Social class doesn't matter when it comes to love and friendship. If Peter chose you, it's because you really are special." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The sun began to set, tinting the sky orange. The cemetery was almost empty, just a few workers doing the final cleaning of the day. "Johnny, it's getting late. Won't your grandmother be worried?" "She knows I came here. Said it would take a while." "Does she know about the videos?" "She knows I found something from Peter, but I haven't shown her yet. I wanted to show you first." Richard was touched by the boy's consideration. "How about we go to your house together? I'd like to meet your grandmother and explain everything to her." Johnny hesitated. "Are you sure, sir? Our house is very simple." "Johnny, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is getting to know my son's friend's family." They left the cemetery together. Richard offered a ride, but Johnny said he preferred to take the bus because it was the way he knew. Richard agreed, wanting to respect the boy's comfort. During the bus ride, Johnny told more about his life. He had lived with his grandmother since he was 3, when his parents left to work in another state and never returned. Mrs. Grace worked as a cleaner in downtown offices to support them both. "Grandma is the kindest person in the world," said Johnny. "She works a lot, but she always finds time to help me with my homework and to talk with me." "And do you go to school?" "Yes, I do. I study in the morning, and in the afternoon I stay with Grandma or play in the street. It was in the afternoon that I met Peter." Richard calculated mentally. If Peter went out to meet Johnny in the afternoons, when he was supposedly resting at home, how did no one notice his absence? "Johnny, what time did you usually meet?" "Always after 2 in the afternoon. Peter said he had private lessons at home in the morning." It was true. Peter had private tutors who came to the house during the morning, as he was too weak to attend regular school. And how did he get to your neighborhood? He never really told me, just said he had a special way of traveling. Richard was intrigued. Peter had been quite debilitated in recent months. How did he manage to make such a long trip alone? The bus stopped in the Riverdale neighborhood. It was a simple neighborhood with small houses and narrow streets. Johnny guided Richard through several blocks until they reached a light blue house with a tiny garden in front. "This is it, Mr. Richard," said Johnny, stopping at the gate. A lady with graying hair appeared at the window. She must have been about 65, with a kind but tired face. "Johnny, who is this gentleman?" she asked, coming out of the house. "Grandma, this is Mr. Richard, Peter's father." Mrs. Grace's expression changed completely. She looked Richard up and down, clearly suspicious. "You're the father of the boy who used to play with Johnny?" "Yes, I am, Mrs. Grace. Pleasure to meet you," said Richard, extending his hand. She shook his hand but kept a defensive posture. "What do you want here?" "Johnny told me about the friendship he had with my son. I'd like to talk with you about it, if you don't mind." Mrs. Grace looked at her grandson, then at Richard. "Johnny, did you tell him about Peter?" "I did, Grandma, and I showed him the videos too." "What videos?" Johnny took the cell phone from his pocket and showed it to his grandmother. She widened her eyes. "Johnny, where did you get this?" "Peter hid it for me, Grandma, like I told you." Mrs. Grace sighed and opened the gate. "Come in. Let's talk properly inside the house." The house was small but very clean and organized. The living room had only an old sofa, a small television and some plants. On the walls, pictures of Johnny at different ages. "Mr. Richard, would you like some coffee?" offered Mrs. Grace. "Yes, thank you." While she prepared the coffee, Richard observed the house. It was humble but full of love and care. Johnny sat next to him on the sofa. "Mr. Richard, Grandma got a little scared when I told her about Peter. She thought I was making it up." "Why did she think that?" "Because I never brought Peter here to the house, and because after he left I kept saying that I still played with him sometimes." Mrs. Grace returned with the coffee and sat in a chair facing them. "Mr. Richard, I need to be honest with you. When Johnny started talking about this Peter, I thought it was an imaginary friend. Children who are very alone sometimes make up companions." "I understand perfectly, Mrs. Grace. I would be suspicious too." But then he started telling very specific details. He talked about the boy's name, his family, things that a child his age wouldn't know how to make up. "And did you ever see them together?" "No. Johnny always said that Peter could only play away from home. I thought it was strange, but since my grandson always came back happy, I didn't question it much." Johnny fiddled with his phone and played one of the videos. Mrs. Grace leaned in to see better. When Peter appeared on the screen, talking about the adventures with Johnny, she brought her hand to her chest. "My God! It's really him! The boy Johnny talked so much about. Do you believe now that the friendship was real?" "Yes, I do. But Mr. Richard, how is this possible? Johnny told me that that he left months ago." Richard explained about finding the phone and how Peter had recorded the videos before leaving, preparing everything so Johnny could show his family later. "What a special boy," murmured Mrs. Grace, wiping away a tear. "He planned everything to help Johnny after he couldn't be here anymore." "Mrs. Grace, can I ask something delicate?" "Yes, you can." "Did you know that Peter came from a wealthy family?" She shook her head. "Johnny only said he was a nice boy who liked to play. He never mentioned money or social class." "And would that have made a difference to you?" Mrs. Grace thought before answering. "Mr. Richard, I'll be frank. Rich people usually don't mix with people like us without having some interest. But seeing these videos, I see that the boy really liked Johnny. It was a true friendship." "Mrs. Grace, my son left a very clear message in these videos. He asked me to take care of Johnny as if he were family." Her face hardened. "What do you mean by that?" "That I would like to help you, not out of pity or charity, but because it was my son's last wish." "Mr. Richard, I appreciate the intention, but we don't need handouts." "It's not a handout, Mrs. Grace. It's honoring Peter's wish." Johnny, who had been quiet listening to the conversation, finally spoke. "Grandma, Peter really said that. He wanted me to be part of his family." Johnny, my son, things don't work that way. It's not because a rich boy wanted it that we're going to become a family. Richard Thompson felt he needed to be more direct. Mrs. Grace, may I show you something? He took out his phone and searched for one of the last videos Johnny had shown him. It was a longer recording where Peter spoke directly to the camera with great seriousness. Dad, if you're watching this, it's because Johnny found the courage to look for you. I know you must be wondering why I hid this friendship. The truth is I was afraid you wouldn't understand, not because you're prejudiced, but because I knew you'd want to help Johnny in a way that could hurt his family's pride. Johnny doesn't need money, Dad. He needs love, attention, someone who believes in him. His grandmother is a wonderful person, but she works a lot and can't give all the attention a child needs. Dad, I want you to be a father to Johnny too. Not a benefactor, a father. And I want Mrs. Grace to be part of our family. She can teach our family what true love is. Mrs. Grace was moved, listening to the message. What a mature boy, she whispered. Mrs. Grace, my son was very intelligent. He understood it's not about money, but about family. But Mr. Thompson, how would that work? We're from very different worlds. We're all human beings with the same feelings. Peter realized that. Johnny stood up and went to his grandmother. Grandma, I want to try. I want to... Peter was my best friend. If he thought it could work. Johnny, my son, these things are more complicated than you imagine. Richard leaned forward. Mrs. Grace, how about we start slowly? Johnny can spend some afternoons at my house, meet my wife, see how he feels. If it doesn't work out, there's no problem. And you? What do you think about all this? My wife doesn't know about Johnny yet. I want to tell her everything tonight and see how she reacts. What if she doesn't like the idea? Then we'll talk and find a solution that's good for everyone. Mrs. Grace looked at her grandson, whose eyes were full of hope. Johnny, do you really want this? Yes, Grandma, but only if you agree. Mr. Thompson, may I ask a personal question? Of course. Why do you want this? What do you gain by helping a poor child? Richard thought about the answer. Mrs. Grace, since I lost Peter, I've felt a huge emptiness in my chest. When I met Johnny today, for the first time in months, I felt I could be useful again. It's not that I want to replace my son, that's impossible, but I want to honor his memory by doing what he asked. And your wife? How will she react? Christine always wanted more children. We had difficulties having Peter and couldn't have others. I think she'll be happy. Mr. Thompson, I need some time to think. This is too important to decide quickly. Of course, Mrs. Grace. There's no rush at all. Johnny seemed disappointed but said nothing. How about I come back tomorrow, suggested Richard. That way you have the night to think, and I'll also talk to my wife. That seems like a good idea. Richard stood up to leave. Mrs. Grace, thank you very much for having me. And Johnny, thank you for being such a special friend to Peter. Mr. Thompson, called Mrs. Grace, may I keep a copy of these videos? I want to watch them carefully. Of course. Johnny, can you send some videos to Mrs. Grace? Yes, I can. I'll send them through her WhatsApp. Richard wrote down Mrs. Grace's phone number and gave his as well. If you have any questions, you can call me. I'll come back tomorrow at the same time, if that's okay with you. You can come, Mr. Thompson. On the way back home, Richard thought about how to explain everything to Christine. She was suffering deeply from the loss of Peter and blaming herself for not noticing in time that he was getting worse. She arrived home around 8 in the evening. Christine was in the kitchen stirring a pot without much enthusiasm. Hi, honey. How was the cemetery today? She asked, without turning to look at him. Christine, I need to tell you something very important. Shall we sit in the living room? She turned off the stove and followed him to the living room. Richard told her everything, the meeting with Johnny, the videos, the secret friendship with Peter, their son's request. Christine listened to it all in silence, with her hands clasped in her lap. Richard, are you sure you're not creating fantasies because of the pain? I'm sure, honey. I want to show you the videos. They watched several recordings together. Christine cried a lot, especially when Peter talked about wanting Johnny to be part of the family. He planned it all, she murmured. Our son prepared a way to help us even after he was gone. Christine, what do you think of the idea? I'm scared, Richard. What if it doesn't work out? What if we hurt this child by creating expectations we can't meet? That's why we'll take it slow. Johnny can come spend some afternoons here. We'll get to know each other better, see how we feel. And his grandmother, what does she think? She's hesitant, which is understandable, but I think if we show that our intentions are genuine, she'll accept. Christine remained silent for a long time. Richard, can I tell you something? Of course. Since we lost Peter, I feel like I have no purpose in life anymore. Taking care of a child again. Maybe that's exactly what we need. So you'd be willing? Yes, I would. But let's take it easy, as you said. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Richard woke up more excited than he had been in months. He had a sense of purpose that he hadn't felt since Peter's departure. During breakfast, he and Christine talked about the possibilities. Richard, if we're really going to adopt Johnny, I want to do things right, she said. Let's seek psychological guidance, see how to make the transition easier for him. I completely agree, and we'll respect Mrs. Grace's pace too. About her, do you think she would agree to come live here with us? Our house is big. There's plenty of space. Richard smiled. That was exactly the reaction he had expected from Christine, always thinking of everyone's well-being. Let's talk to her about it, but I think at first she'll prefer to maintain her independence. I understand. And about school? Johnny goes to a public school, right? He does. We'll see if he wants to stay there, or if he prefers to change. The important thing is to respect his wishes. At 2 in the afternoon, Richard was once again at the door of the blue house in the Riverdale neighborhood. Mrs. Grace greeted him with a warmer smile than the day before. Mr. Richard, come in. Johnny is eagerly waiting for you. Mrs. Grace, were you able to watch the videos? I watched them all. I cried a lot too. What a special boy that Peter was. And what did you think of his request? She sighed. Mr. Richard, I'll be honest. I spent the whole night thinking. On one hand, I want the best for Johnny. On the other, I'm afraid of losing my grandson. Mrs. Grace, no one wants to take Johnny away from you. We want to expand his family. How so? You would always be his grandmother. We would be like adoptive parents. All important decisions would be made together. Johnny came running from the kitchen. Mr. Richard, Grandma told me I can go see your house today. Is that true, Mrs. Grace? Yes, it is. I thought it would be good for him to see what it's like there to meet your wife. That's great. Christine is very eager to meet him. Mr. Richard, said Mrs. Grace, can I make a request? Of course. I want to go along today. I need to meet your wife, too. That would be great. Christine will be very happy. The three of them left together. Richard called a taxi, thinking it would be more comfortable than the bus for the first visit. During the ride, Johnny asked many questions about the house and about Christine. Peter used to say your wife is really nice, he said. She sure is. And she's very eager to meet you. Mr. Richard, can I ask you something? Go ahead. If I come to live with you, will I still be able to see my grandma every day? Johnny, of course you will. In fact, I want to talk to your grandmother about her coming to live with us too. Mrs. Grace widened her eyes. With me? Mr. Richard, there's no need for that. Mrs. Grace, our house has 4 bedrooms. Peter used one, Christine and I another. That leaves 2. One would be for Johnny and the other for you. But, Mr. Richard, I couldn't possibly accept that. Why not? Because it's not right for me to take advantage of your kindness. Johnny took his grandmother's hand. Grandma, this way we'd be together, but I'd also have a bigger family, like Peter wanted. Mrs. Grace got emotional. Johnny, are you sure that's what you want? Yes, Grandma, but only if you come along. Richard smiled. Johnny was very clever and knew how to convince his grandmother. They arrived at Richard and Christine's house in the High Point Estates neighborhood. It was a large 2-story house with a garden and a pool. Johnny's eyes widened. Wow, what a beautiful house. Thank you, Johnny. Come on, I'll introduce you to Christine. Christine was waiting at the door wearing a simple dress and a nervous smile. Johnny, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Peter talked about you a lot in the videos, she said, bending down to be at the boy's level. Mrs. Christine, nice to meet you. Peter said you make the best brigadeiro in the world. Christine laughed. He exaggerated. But if you'd like, I can make some brigadeiros for you today. Really? I'd love that. And you must be Mrs. Grace, Christine said, turning to Johnny's grandmother. Nice to meet you. Welcome to our home. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Christine. Sorry to bother. No bother at all. I'm very happy to meet you both. Come on, I'll show you the house. Christine gave a tour of the entire house. Johnny was impressed by the size of the bedrooms and the pool in the backyard. Can I swim in the pool? He asked, his eyes shining. Of course you can. Whenever you want, Christine replied. Johnny knows how to swim? Richard asked. A little bit. Peter taught me at the playground. There was an inflatable pool there. Mrs. Grace and Christine hit it off right away. They talked about recipes, raising children, life in the neighborhood. Mrs. Grace, Christine said, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Do you work a lot? I work at 3 different offices. I do cleaning in the morning and afternoon. In the evening, I take care of Johnny. That must be tiring. It is. But it's what I know how to do. Have you ever thought about doing something else? Oh, Mrs. Christine, at my age and with my education, there aren't many options. But you have experience taking care of a house and children. That's very valuable. Mrs. Grace didn't understand where Christine was going with this. Mrs. Grace, if you agreed to come live here, you wouldn't need to work outside. You could take care of the house and the children. It would be a job, but here at home, with more peace of mind. Mrs. Christine, that would be too much. Not at all. We need someone we trust to take care of the house. And who better than Johnny's grandmother? Richard joined the conversation. Mrs. Grace, it would be good for everyone. You'd have more time with Johnny, and we'd have the peace of mind knowing he's being cared for by someone who loves him. Johnny was playing in the pool with Christine when he overheard the conversation. Grandma, please say yes. Then we can all be together. Mrs. Grace looked at her grandson, so happy she hadn't seen in a long time. Can I think a little more? Of course, Mrs. Grace. There's no hurry, said Richard. But in the meantime, can Johnny come spend the afternoons here? Asked Christine. Yes, he can. I think it would be good for him. Johnny ran out of the pool and hugged everyone. Thank you, you're the best people in the world. At snack time, Christine served the chocolate truffles she had promised. Johnny ate 3 and said Peter was right. They were the best in the world. Mrs. Christine, said Johnny, can I see Peter's room? Christine and Richard exchanged glances. Their son's room was exactly as he had left it. Yes, you can, Johnny, come with me. They went up to the 2nd floor. Christine opened the door to Peter's room. It was a large room with a single bed, a desk, shelves full of books and toys. Johnny entered slowly, as if he were in a sacred place. It's just like Peter described, he murmured. He described the room to you? Asked Christine. Yes, he did. He told me about the books, the toys, the window that looks out onto the garden. Johnny approached the shelf and picked up a book. This one. Peter talked about this book. He said it was his favorite story. It was The Little Prince card. It really was Peter's favorite book. Johnny, said Christine, would you like to sleep in this room when you come to stay overnight here? Can I really? Of course. I think Peter would like that. Johnny hugged Christine. Mrs. Christine, you're just like a mother to me, Christine cried with emotion. And you're like a son to me, Johnny. When they went back downstairs, Mrs. Grace was talking with Richard about practical details of the possible move. Mr. Richard, if I really came to live here, how would it work? Mrs. Grace, you would have a fixed salary for taking care of the house and Johnny. You would have your own room, all meals, and complete freedom to visit friends and relatives. And if it doesn't work out, we'll help you get settled somewhere else. But I'm sure it will work out. Can I sleep here tonight? Asked Johnny excitedly. If your grandmother allows it, said Christine. Grandma, can I? Mrs. Grace looked at her grandson, then at Richard and Christine. Yes, you can, my boy, but I'll go home. I'll come pick you up early tomorrow morning. Mrs. Grace, said Richard, how about staying for dinner? Christine made lasagna. I don't want to impose any more. It's no trouble at all. On the contrary, it would be a pleasure, insisted Christine. During dinner, they talked about many things. Mrs. Grace told them about her life, about how she raised Johnny alone, about her fears and hopes. Mrs. Grace, said Richard, can I ask a question? Go ahead. What worries you the most about this move? She thought before answering. I'm afraid that you'll get tired of Johnny, that you'll see it's too much responsibility and want to send him back. Mrs. Grace, that will never happen, Christine assured her. Johnny is already part of our family. And if he does something wrong? Kids do wrong things. That's how they learn. We won't give up on him for that, said Richard. And if I get sick and can't take care of the house anymore? Then we'll take care of you too. Family takes care of each other, replied Christine. Mrs. Grace was moved by the answers. Do you really want this? Yes, we do, they said together. Johnny, who had been quiet listening, finally spoke. Grandma, Peter told me that when you really love someone, you accept the risks. I love you, and I want to try. Mrs. Grace wiped away a tear. All right, let's try. Everyone hugged, emotional. The next morning, Mrs. Grace arrived early to pick up Johnny. She found him having breakfast with Richard and Christine, looking perfectly at ease. How was your night, Johnny? It was great, Grandma. I slept in Peter's room and I dreamed about him. He said he's happy because we managed to stay together. Mrs. Grace, said Christine, how about we start the move next weekend? That way we have time to organize everything. All right, I'll start packing our things. Don't worry about furniture, said Richard. We have everything you need, just bring clothes and personal items. During the week, Richard and Christine prepared the rooms for Johnny and Mrs. Grace. They bought new bedding, organized the closet, got everything ready. Johnny visited the house every day after school. Gradually, he got used to the new routine. On Saturday, a small truck arrived at the Blue House in the Riverdale neighborhood to pick up Johnny and Mrs. Grace's belongings. There wasn't much, some clothes, photos, Johnny's books, and a few cherished items. The move was emotional. Johnny ran through the new house, showing the rooms to his grandmother, explaining where everything would go. Grandma, look how big the bathroom is, and there's hot water. Johnny, you don't need to shout, said Mrs. Grace, still a bit nervous about the new situation. Mrs. Grace, said Christine, make yourself at home. This is your house now. At the first dinner all together, Richard made a toast. To our new family, may we be happy together and honor Peter's memory. To Peter, said Johnny, raising his glass of juice. To Peter, everyone repeated. On the first night sleeping in the new house, Johnny had a very vivid dream about Peter. In the dream, they were playing at the playground, like in the old days. Peter, do you think I did the right thing? Johnny asked in the dream. You did, Johnny. Now you have a complete family, and my dad and my mom have a son again. I'm going to miss you. I'll always be here, said Peter, pointing to Johnny's heart. And now you can take care of my parents for me. Johnny woke up feeling at peace. He left the room and went to the kitchen to get some water. He found Richard sitting at the table, checking his phone. Mr. Richard, can't you sleep? Hi, Johnny. I was just checking some emails. And you? I dreamed about Peter. He said he's happy. Richard smiled. I think he's happy too. He managed to bring our family together. Mr. Richard, can I ask you a question? Of course. Do you feel like I'm really your son? Richard thought about the answer. Johnny, you don't replace Peter. No one can do that. But you brought something new and special to our family. Yes, I feel like you're my son. And can I call you Dad? If you want to, I'd be very happy. Then, good night, Dad. Good night, son. The first months in the new house were about adjustment. Johnny continued studying at the same school, but now Richard or Christine would drive him. Mrs. Grace took over the housekeeping and discovered she loved cooking for a larger family. Christine started teaching recipes to Mrs. Grace, and the two became great friends. Richard helped Johnny with his homework and discovered he had a knack for explaining math. Johnny made new friends in the neighborhood, but kept in touch with his old ones through regular visits to the Riverdale neighborhood. On one of these visits, Johnny showed the spot where he used to play with Peter. It was a simple playground with some old toys and a large tree. It was under this tree that Peter hid the cell phone, Johnny explained to Richard and Christine. Can we plant something here in his honor? Suggested Christine. Yes, we can. How about a rose bush? Peter loved flowers. They planted a rose bush next to the tree and placed a small plaque. In memory of Peter, who taught that true love has no barriers. The Riverdale neighborhood welcomed the story of the expanded family well. Mrs. Grace had told some friends about the move, and everyone was moved by the story of Peter and Johnny. Grace, you were lucky, said Mrs. Wilson, a long-time neighbor. You found good people. It was Peter who found them, Maria. He planned everything. What a special boy. He managed to take care of his little friend even after he was gone. Johnny continued visiting the cemetery regularly, always accompanied by Richard or Christine. During these visits, he would tell Peter about the family's news. Peter, I got a 9 on my math test today. Your dad helped me study, he would say, talking to the grave as if Peter were listening. And your mum taught me how to make brigadeiro. It turned out almost as delicious as hers. Richard and Christine were moved, hearing Johnny talk to Peter. It was as if their son was still part of the family's daily life. 6 months after the move, something unexpected happened. Johnny was playing in the backyard when he found a box buried near the rosebush they had planted in honor of Peter. Dad, Mom, come see what I found, he shouted excitedly. Richard and Christine ran to the backyard. Johnny showed them a small metal box he had dug up. Where did you find this? Asked Christine. It was buried right there near the rosebush. I think Peter left it. They opened the box together. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small key. Richard read the letter aloud. If you're reading this, it means my plan worked and our family came together. Johnny, you were the best friend I could ever have. Dad and Mom, I hope you take good care of him. The key is for my safe in the bedroom. Inside there's a surprise for our new family. With love, Peter. They rushed upstairs to Peter's room. In the closet was a small safe that Richard and Christine had never opened. The key fit perfectly. Inside the safe was a considerable amount of money, all the allowance Peter had saved for months, and another letter. This money is for our family's honeymoon. I want you to travel together to some special place and create happy memories. Johnny has never traveled outside the city. Dad, Mom, show him the world. And remember that wherever you are, I'll be with you in your hearts. Everyone cried reading the letter. Peter had planned even the smallest details to ensure the happiness of the family he left behind. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. Where would you like to go? Asked Richard, wiping away tears. Can I choose? Asked Johnny, still holding the letter. Of course, son. It's your first trip. I want to go somewhere with an ocean. Peter told me the ocean is the most beautiful thing in the world. Then let's go to the beach, decided Christine. Can Grandma come too? Of course she can. We're all family. They planned a week-long trip to Malibu. It would be the first time Johnny saw the ocean, Mrs. Grace's first plane trip, and the first family vacation since Peter's departure. The trip was magical. Johnny was dazzled by the ocean, the sand, the colorful little fish he saw at the city aquarium. Peter was right, he said, running on the beach. The ocean is the most beautiful thing in the world. Mrs. Grace, who had never left the state, was impressed by the landscapes and the emotion of seeing her grandson so happy. I never thought I'd one day be in a place like this, she told Christine. Life sometimes surprises us, Mrs. Grace. That's true. Who would have thought that losing his parents would be the way for Johnny to find an even bigger family? On the last night of the trip, they were all sitting on the beach, watching the sunset, when Johnny asked a question that took everyone by surprise. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course, son. Do you think Peter is happy seeing us here? Richard looked toward the horizon, where the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I'm sure he is, Johnny, and I'm sure he's proud of you. Why? Because you had the courage to look for our family, because you accepted leaving your comfort zone to try something new, and because you brought joy back to our home. Johnny became thoughtful. Dad, can I tell you a secret? Go ahead. Sometimes I'm afraid you'll get tired of me." Christine came closer and hugged Johnny. "Son, that will never happen. You're part of our family forever." "Even if I do something wrong?" "Even if you do something wrong, family forgives, teaches, and keeps loving." "And if I fail in school?" "Then we help you study more," said Richard, laughing. "And if I break something at home?" "Then we buy another one," replied Christine. "And if I get sick?" "Then we take care of you until you're better," said Mrs. Grace. Johnny relaxed, feeling truly safe for the first time in his life. "Now can I tell you another secret?" he said. "Go ahead." "I love you, all of you, and I know Peter loves you too." They returned from the trip even more united. Johnny was more secure, Mrs. Grace more integrated into the new family, and Richard and Christine feeling they had found a new purpose in life. Back to the routine, Johnny continued to excel in school. His teachers noticed a great improvement in the boy's performance and self-esteem. "Johnny is much more confident," commented the teacher during a meeting with Richard and Christine, "and he shows impressive emotional maturity for his age." "He's been through many changes recently," explained Christine. "Positive changes from what I see. He talks about you a lot in class. It's obvious he feels loved and secure." At home, Johnny had created a new habit. Every Sunday morning he would write a letter to Peter, telling him about the week that had passed. He kept the letters in a little box in his room. "Dad, do you think Peter receives these letters?" he asked one day. "I think so, son. Love always finds a way to get where it needs to go." "Then I'll keep writing. I want him to know how happy we are." Richard smiled. Johnny had an understanding of love and family that many adults didn't possess. 1 year after the move, the family decided to organize a special birthday party for Johnny. It was the first time he would have a big party with many guests. "Son, who do you want to invite?" asked Christine. "Can I invite everyone? The friends from the new school, the friends from the Riverdale neighborhood, Mrs. Wilson, who lives next to our old house." "You can invite whoever you want. It's your party." The party was in the backyard of the house. Christine and Mrs. Grace prepared sweets and snacks for over 50 people. Richard organized games and activities. At the moment to sing Happy Birthday, Johnny made a special wish. "Before blowing out the candles, I want to say thank you. Thank you to Peter, who brought me to this family. Thank you to Dad Richard and Mum Christine, who welcomed me. And thank you to Grandma Grace, who always took care of me." Everyone applauded, moved. "And now," Johnny continued, "I want everyone to sing Happy Birthday, not just for me, but for Peter too, because without him, none of this would be possible." They sang Happy Birthday for Johnny and for Peter. It was a very emotional moment, as if Peter were really present at the party. After the guests left, the family gathered in the living room to talk about the day. "How was your first big party, son?" asked Richard. "It was perfect, Dad. The only thing missing was Peter being here physically. But he was here in all our hearts," said Christine. "That's true. And you know what else? I think today I understood something important." "What was it?" asked Mrs. Grace. "I understood that family isn't just who you're born with. Family is who chooses to stay together, take care of each other, and truly love one another." Richard and Christine exchanged glances, impressed by the boy's wisdom. "You're right, Johnny, and we chose you to be our son. And I chose you to be my family." That night, Johnny had another dream about Peter, but this time the dream was different. Peter wasn't sad or longing. He was radiant with happiness. "Johnny, look what we've accomplished," Peter said in the dream. "Our family is complete and happy." "Peter, don't you miss being here with us?" "I do, but I'm happy knowing you're well. And you know what? I learned a very important lesson." "What?" "I learned that true love never ends. Even when we can't be physically together, love continues to connect people." "Will you keep appearing in my dreams?" "Whenever you need me, I'll be here. But now you have a complete family to take care of you. You won't need my dreams as often." "Peter, can I tell you something?" "Of course. You were the best friend anyone could have. And now you're the best brother anyone could have. And you're the best brother I could have chosen for our family." Johnny woke up the next morning, feeling more mature and complete. He knew Peter would always be in his heart, but he also knew he now had a solid and loving family to move forward with. During breakfast, he told the family about the dream. "Peter told me he's proud of us," Johnny reported. "We're proud too," said Richard. "Proud of you, proud of our family, proud of what we've built together. And proud of Peter, who had the wisdom to bring us together," added Christine. Mrs. Grace, who was preparing breakfast, stopped to look at the family gathered around the table. "You know something?" she said. "I never thought at 65 I'd gain a new family, but you've taught me it's never too late to start over." "Mrs. Grace, you've taught us a lot too," said Christine. "You taught us that family is built with love, patience, and dedication. And you taught us that wisdom isn't about money or social status," added Richard. "It's about life experience and kindness in the heart." Johnny got up from the table and went to hug his grandmother. "Grandma, thank you for agreeing to come live with us. It made our family even more special. Thank you, my grandson, for bringing so much joy into my life." 2 years after the first meeting at the cemetery, the family had completely settled in. Johnny was in 8th grade and excelled in all subjects. He had developed a special talent for drawing, inspired by the stories Peter used to tell. "Dad, can I show you something?" Johnny said one day, coming home from school with a folder in his hand. "Of course, son. What is it?" Johnny opened the folder and showed a series of drawings. They were illustrations of the adventures he and Peter had together. Pirates, astronauts, time travelers. "Johnny, these drawings are incredible!" exclaimed Christine, who had come closer to see. "The art teacher said I have talent, and you know what I want to do?" "What?" asked Richard and Christine together. "I want to turn Peter's stories into a book, with drawings and everything. That way other children can learn about the adventures we had." Richard was moved by the idea. "Son, I think it's a wonderful idea. We can look for someone to help you write the stories." "I'm already writing them, Dad. Want to see?" Johnny showed a notebook where he had written several stories, all based on his playtime with Peter. "The Time Adventures of Peter and Johnny," Christine read, seeing the title. "That's beautiful, son. I'm going to dedicate the book to Peter, and to you too for making all this possible." The book idea motivated the whole family. Richard Thompson sought out a publisher specializing in children's books. Christine helped Johnny review the stories. Mrs. Grace offered suggestions on how to make the adventures even more interesting. 6 months later, the book was ready. The publisher was impressed with the quality of the stories and illustrations, considering the author's age. "Johnny," the editor said during the meeting, "your stories have something very special. They speak about friendship, family, and love in a way that touches the heart." "It's because they're based on real experiences," Johnny explained. "Peter really existed and our friendship really happened." The book was launched in a small ceremony at Johnny's school. The whole family was present, along with teachers, classmates, and friends from the 2 neighborhoods where Johnny had lived. During the launch, Johnny gave a speech that moved everyone in attendance. "This book is more than just stories," he said, holding a copy. "It's proof that love can overcome any barrier. Peter taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from or where you're going. What matters is how much love you can give and receive along the way. And it's also proof," he continued, "that family isn't just those you're born with. Family is who chooses to stay together through good times and bad." The book had a greater impact than they expected. Several schools began using the stories to talk about friendship and social inclusion. Johnny started receiving letters from children all over the country, sharing their own stories of friendship. "Dad, look how many letters came today," Johnny said, coming home with a large package. "How many are there?" asked Richard. "More than 50, kids from everywhere wanting to share their stories." Johnny replied to every letter personally, always encouraging the children to value their friendships and families. In one of the most touching letters, an 8-year-old girl wrote, "Johnny, I read your book and cried a lot. I also have a special friend who moved away. Now I understand that he's still in my heart. Thank you for teaching me that." "See, son," said Christine, "your stories are helping other children cope with their losses." "That's what Peter wanted," Johnny replied, "for our friendship to help other people." 3 years after the book's release, when Johnny was turning 15, the family received an unexpected surprise. A television production company wanted to turn the book into a movie. "Johnny, what do you think?" Richard asked during dinner. "Do you want them to make a movie of your stories?" Johnny thought for a moment. "Can I ask for a few things?" "Of course, son. What are they?" "First, that the story is told exactly as it happened, without adding unnecessary dramatic elements." "I agree," said Christine. "Second, that part of the movie's earnings go to a social project. I want to help other children in situations similar to mine." Richard smiled proudly. "And the third?" "That the actor who plays Peter really looks like him." "It can't be just anyone. We'll make sure of that," Richard promised. The movie took 2 years to complete. During production, Johnny participated actively, always ensuring the story was told with respect and authenticity. At the movie premiere, the whole family was present. The theater was packed. When the final credits appeared, there was a long round of applause. Johnny went on stage to speak to the audience. "This movie isn't just entertainment," he said, now 17 years old. "It's a testament that true love can transform lives. Peter taught me that friendship has no social barriers. My family taught me that love has no limits. And I want to take this moment," he continued, "to announce the launch of the Peter and Johnny Foundation, which will help children in vulnerable social situations find loving families." The audience stood up to applaud. Richard, Christine, and Mrs. Grace were crying with emotion as they watched Johnny transformed into a conscious and generous young man. The Peter and Johnny Foundation had become a great success. In 5 years of operation, it had already helped more than 200 children find new families. Johnny, who was now in college studying psychology, worked as a volunteer at the foundation on weekends. "Why did you choose psychology?" asked a reporter during an interview. "Because I want to better understand how the human heart works," Johnny replied. "I want to help other people overcome their losses and find happiness, like I did." "And your plans for the future?" "I want to continue the foundation's work, and I want to write more books. I have many stories to tell." "Real stories? All based on real-life experiences. I believe the truth is always more touching than fiction." At 21, Johnny graduated in psychology with academic honors. During the graduation ceremony, he gave a speech that became famous on social media. "When I was a child," he said, "I thought family was only those you were born with. Peter taught me that family is who chooses to stay together. My adoptive family taught me that love has no color, social class, or last name. Today," he continued, "I graduate as a psychologist so I can help other people find their own heart families, because I believe everyone deserves to be loved and welcomed." Richard, Christine, and Mrs. Grace were in the front row, applauding with tears in their eyes. After graduation, Johnny opened a practice specializing in family therapy and adoption. His work became a reference in the field. "Dr. Johnny," said one of his first patients, "how can you understand our fears about adoption so well?" "Because I went through that process," he replied. "I know what it's like to be afraid of not being accepted. And I know how wonderful it is to discover that you can be loved unconditionally." At 25, Johnny married Marina, a social worker he met while working at the foundation. The wedding was a big celebration, bringing together people from all social classes who had been touched by the story of Johnny and Peter. "Johnny," Richard said during the best man's speech, "when I met you, you were a scared boy who had lost his best friend. Today, you are a man who dedicates his life to helping others find the love you found. Peter would be very proud," he added, "and we are proud to have you as our son." Johnny and Marina decided to adopt children instead of having biological ones. "We want to give an opportunity to children who need a family," Johnny explained, "just like an opportunity was given to me." They adopted 3 children, 2 brothers aged 6 and 8, and a 5-year-old girl. All had been through difficult situations and needed a lot of love and patience. "Daddy Johnny," said Sophie, the 5-year-old girl, during the first family dinner, "why did you and Mommy Marina choose us?" Johnny knelt down to be at her level. "Because you are special, and because we believe every child deserves a family that loves them. And will you keep loving us even if we do something wrong?" "Always," Marina replied. "Family loves unconditionally." "Like Uncle Peter loved you?" asked Michael, the 8-year-old boy. Johnny smiled. He had told the children Peter's story as soon as they arrived, exactly like Peter loved me, and like my family still loves me today. Mrs. Grace, who was now 75, continued to live with Richard and Christine. She had become the official grandma to all the children adopted by Johnny. "Grandma Grace," Sophie would say, "tell us the story of Uncle Peter again." "Again? But I already told it yesterday," Mrs. Grace would joke. "But we really like that story." "All right. Once upon a time there was a boy named Peter who had such a big heart that he managed to bring two families together. The story of Peter and Johnny became a legend in the region. The playground where they used to play was renovated and received a plaque in honor of their friendship. Peter and Johnny Playground, the plaque read, where true friendship planted seeds that sprouted into family love. Every year, on the anniversary of Peter's passing, the family gathered at the cemetery for a special celebration. It wasn't a moment of sadness, but of gratitude. "Peter," Johnny would say, speaking to the grave, "your mission was accomplished. Not only did you unify our family, but you inspired hundreds of other families to form through adoption. Your teachings about love without barriers spread far beyond what you could have imagined. And you know what? There isn't a single day that I don't feel your presence in my life. You continue to be my best friend and my brother of the heart." At 30, Johnny released his autobiography, The Boy Who Played with an Angel. The book became a national bestseller and was translated into more than 20 languages. On the last page of the book, Johnny wrote, "This is my story, the story of a poor boy who found a rich friend, not in money, but in love. Peter taught me that true wealth lies in the ability to love and be loved. My adoptive family taught me that home isn't a place, it's where the heart is. Today, at 30, I have a beautiful family, a job I love, and the certainty that I fulfilled the mission Peter left me, to spread love throughout the world." If you're reading this and going through any difficulty, remember, love always finds a way. Sometimes it comes in unexpected forms, like the friendship between two children from different worlds. Sometimes it comes as a second chance, like a family that opens its arms to welcome. The important thing is to be open to receiving and giving love, because in the end that's all that really matters. To love and be loved. Peter, wherever you are, thank you for making me not just a better man, but an instrument of transformation in other people's lives. Our friendship was brief, but its effects will be eternal. With infinite love and gratitude, Johnny. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this moving story of love and family. From where are you watching us? If this story touched your heart, leave in the comments which part moved you the most. Do you believe that true love can overcome any social barrier? We love reading your honest opinion. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that go straight to the heart.